What's going on, everyone? This is the Harmony Developer DAO, the world's best DAO for the world's best developers. If everyone's joining, I want you to know that you are in great company. You're in the company of the best developers in blockchain. You're in the company, oh, it's Cerebral Gaming. I would love to collab with you guys. Here, come over and we can talk about your success. I would love to learn about the success of this guild. It is doing great things. It's getting into some great projects. And go ahead, so you're such a legend. Let's learn.
I'm sorry, like you cut out like halfway through what you were saying
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
because I grabbed the mic.
Okay, I was saying that those who are wise go to Cerebral Gaming's Discord to get into great projects. How do you select good projects, sir?
I usually like to take a lot of time to figure out who's working on the teams that are developing the projects that we invest in, and make sure that they're solid people that they care about their community. Because community building is like the first aspect of building a solid project. So, um, if they care about what their community thinks, if they care about the value that they're bringing to their community, then we're usually on board.
Wow, that's amazing. So what is it that how do you evaluate someone's technical experience and how do you evaluate the team, sir?
So, technical experience doesn't matter too much at this phase in Web3 development because anybody that has any Web2 experience can get the experience that they need to become a Web3 developer. Solidity is not very different from JavaScript. Um, so, and there's tons of information out there, like free information, like crypto zombies, like there's so many things that people can use to learn and like get more proficient at developing. Now, obviously, you if you do have a younger developer, somebody that's newer to the blockchain space, you're going to want to get a good audit of your project. But um, I don't necessarily think that having a senior dev is as important as it used to be.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. I think a lot of people who are interested in developing may be scared. They may feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. Do you talk to developers and just kind of like help give them confidence when they're a bit hung up in the project and they're not exactly sure what road to follow? Or are you getting into the projects a bit later?
Absolutely. In fact, one of our developers is a Web 2 developer that's trying to gain some Web 3 experience. And so he's doing a lot of the back end work as far as like our database goes, not our Solidity contracts. We actually have a Web3 dev for that specifically, but our Web3 dev is giving them some like experience, like showing them the ropes a little bit. And um our web 2 dev is a little bit nervous about doing it the right way and everything, but you do just have to let them know, like, hey man, you're doing a great job. All we can ask of you is to just do your best, and we'll trust that what you're doing is the right thing. And then also let them know, hey, we're gonna get an audit done after our contracts are written, after our front end and back end service is completely developed. We're gonna have it all audited. So if there is anything that we miss, hopefully they'll pick up on that and you don't have to worry about that. I mean, that's what audits are for. So, yeah, like giving them constructive criticism whenever they need it, letting them know that they're doing a good job, all of that is necessary. But I really think that uh, a lot of devs are type A personalities. You'll notice that, and most of them are rocking and rolling. Like they're really excited about building, and you find that, um, and it's enticing, you know. So uh, you don't have to push too many of them because they're already very capable and very excited about what it is that they're building. But every now and then you do.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I recently saw you've gotten some really good projects. And I'm not really asking about how you got into these projects, but when you talk to your community, is there a certain way that your community you connect to in terms of the interactive basis? Because I see you guys are super responsive. Is that like a part of the strategy to get a great gaming guild going?
um yeah, like, you to build a guild, to build a community, like a gaming community, you really do have to be receptive to the community itself. Otherwise, people are going to lack motivation. Like, they're not going to be interested in what it is that you're building unless they can actively get involved themselves.
So where do you think gaming guilds are going? Because I guess one of the OG gaming guilds is YGG Games, right? But are you guys trying to like be different from YGG, or are you thinking that like gaming guilds as a whole, as a space, are just going to get bigger because everyone they need to go to guilds to get the best information, to get the best projects?
I think it's a mixture of both, man. So I do believe that gaming guilds are going to get larger as the market grows and GameFi grows, but also you do kind of have to find a way of setting yourself apart from the other projects that are out there. Like YGG did a great thing. They offer scholarships to people that need them. They're building their community out, making sure that they have their DAO set aside so that people can vote on things that they use their treasury for. All of that's amazing, but Cerebral Gaming is going to be much more than just a gaming guild. We're developing a contract that basically rewards viewers on Twitch for watching the streamers that we tell them to watch. So we're creating a retention token similar to the Brave attention token, the BAT token. So anybody that's ever used the Brave browser knows exactly what I'm talking about. Instead, we're going to be doing it for gamers on Twitch that love watching streamers. We're going to tell them, hey, go and watch this streamer, and you're going to get rewarded in our token for watching that streamer.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, I think people in this audience, you may not be aware of how lucky we are to hear the head of this guild because we're seeing a guild growing from the ground up in a very early blockchain space on a blockchain like Harmony, where most of these projects, I think most of these projects you're working with are in Harmony. Is that correct?
Yeah, we just partnered up with a project on the Wax blockchain that is a first person shooter. The majority of their project is centralized because it's a first person shooter. Obviously, it's very difficult to make um, anything like completely on the chain when it comes to something like that. But the uniqueness is the fact that they're going to have skins very much like Counter Strike, and all of those skins are going to be NFTs. So they're doing that aspect on the blockchain, and I think that's very awesome because having people with the ability to sell those skins on the market is a really big deal. And there are third party sites out there that allow you to sell your skins on Counter Strike, but they take a huge cut. And that's not the case here with NFTs. You pretty much get like 99.9% of all of the profit whenever you go to sell that skin if it's a rare one or something. So I think it's great, but the majority of the projects that we're partnering with are on Harmony currently. Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think one of the worries that a lot of people have is how to explain the congestion issues on a network, right? So there's a lot of chains out there. Some of them are not as good as Harmony, like Solana, which has lots of problems. How they're going to scale that is going to be a big issue. But do you ever get any feedback from your guild members about whether or not this sustainability of the project will be there in terms of fixing these RPC congestion issues?
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge issue, right? If we stay on Harmony the entire time, then that is something that we're going to have to deal with, obviously, because it hasn't been fixed thus far, and it's been an ongoing issue for about a year now. So that is something that we're looking at, and we're a huge proponent for going cross chain or multi chain. And I do have a feeling that in the future we probably will go to other chains, but Harmony One will always be our base because we love the community here. I think that Harmony probably has the best community out of any other blockchain out there, and so we want to reward the Harmony community for always being there for us. They've been great to us, but I do believe that the future is in cross chains. So we'll probably seek out um, like going putting our contracts on other chains, but our main token will always be housed. Our DAO will always be housed on Harmony.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah, I think one of the things I keep hearing is I was recently watching the AMA between Amin of AVAX and Doquan, and they're both talking about how to create subnets and basically having a gaming subnet. And that games should not share a lot of block space with other projects, essentially, unless they're providing some type of validation power to the network, right? Is that something that you're looking into in terms of making streamable games, gaming, kind of a validator too to help push the network up in terms of scaling, or are you going to focus on this important issue of distribution? Which, by the way, Mr. Gilkar has talked a lot about how important projects should focus on distribution, meaning like influencers and Twitch streamers and how they should get tokens, and that's something that you're doing too.
Yeah, we actually are. It's funny that you mentioned that. We were having a conversation, the governors and I from my team were having a conversation about creating a validator just the other day. And so that absolutely is something that we're looking at. I think that it would be good to say, like, hey, we support this network enough that we're willing to put our money where our mouth is and create a validator here. And I think that we would get a lot of support for that, so it is something that we're looking into. We also have had talks with Avalanche. You just talked about AVAX and subnets. They actually reached out to us about um, maybe creating a subnet for our project. And obviously, it's still very early on to have discussions like that for us because we want to get launched on Harmony and we want to make sure that our project is stable here first. But that is something that we're looking into further on down the road as well.
No, that's very cool. As you mentioned, it's still very early, and you're having a lot of these discussions. Do you ever feel that you are working remotely, you're not really meeting these people in person? How do these discussions evolve over time? Is it just a lot of text? Because in modern day business, this is kind of a hard way of like doing business. You're a great team doing everything remotely. What's the challenges that are really unique to that? Because you guys are growing quite a lot, which is very unique, by the way.
I think the biggest challenge is time zones. Like my team is from all over the world, and so trying to get synced up for meetings, because a lot of our meetings are actually over the phone or on Telegram, I should say. But um, yeah, we have VoIP calls that we do on a weekly basis, sometimes twice a week. And, we're messaging every day, but I personally, as a leader, I like to have those interactions with my people that we sit down, we have a conversation about everything that went on for the week, and we talk about our partnerships, we talk about things that we're looking forward to, future events, things like that. So I make it a point to set aside time each week to chat with my team.
No, that's pretty cool. In terms of trust issues, how do you feel like going out talking to AVAX? There's no contract really being signed, but at the same time, you're kind of pursuing everything with like a trust basis. This is definitely like a Web3 type situation. Do you ever feel uncomfortable with that? Or if not, like how do you kind of develop that confidence?
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where it's like you do have to put a little bit of faith in the people that you're speaking with, but at the same time it's like if if a big project like Avalanche were to go back on their word about something, that would make them look very, very bad in the public spotlight. So I don't think that they would do anything that would incriminate themselves to the public, you know, um, because again, that would just make them look like they have either poor communication or that they aren't keeping to their word. So and that kind of goes back to working with people that you're comfortable with, right? Like it was like one of the first questions you asked, like how do you pick projects that you work with? Well, that's one of the things that we really focus on, making sure that the projects that we do work with have a good strong community behind them, because the projects that um, you don't want to get involved with are the ones that are like willing to either rug their community or go back on their word. And so you really have to feel out their character and make sure that you're working with the right people.
That's very interesting. I mean, maybe Mr. Gilcar can come in and ask some questions too. But something I've always wondered is where do you see the power of Twitch streamers in this? Because I've seen a lot of guilds just don't emphasize that enough, right? Great projects have lots of streamers going on, esports stuff going on, great distribution power, right? That's like very important in terms of traction because Web 2 games get millions of followers, millions of users. Web 3 games, though, there aren't that many good examples of projects that have actually a lot of user activity and can increase and incentivize user activity exponentially. So what do you think is going to go on in the future regarding how to make sure that there's an exponential explosion of user activity?
Dude, you're hitting the nail on the head, because this is our target audience. That is exactly who we're looking for. We're actually looking to hire streamers to come onto our team full time because we know that if we can build an audience on Twitch, then we can easily convert gamers into Web3 users. That will be a very easy transition because a lot of these gamers are PC gamers, right? They already have the technical experience needed to be converted. All they have to do is download MetaMask and get started. Set up the RPC. That simple. um, but the thing is it's untapped. It really is at this point. The only people that are semi doing it is FTX with TSM. Um, Team Solo Mid is one of the biggest esports organizations in the world, and FTX has purchased a small portion of that company and attached their name to their logo, to their brand. And they're the first ones to do it that I know of. But we want to be the very first, like, decentralized, owned, and operated esports organization. Um, I'm sorry.
No problem. Why don't you get a drink of water and we can bring Mr. Gilcar in so he
Yeah,
can talk a little bit about what we've been referring to in terms of this distribution model that a lot of projects miss. And I just want to point out, we are the Harmony Developer DAO, but what we try and do is we try and point people in the right direction because there's so many bad projects out there that have either no good developers or awful distribution plans. So Mr. Gilcar, go right ahead, lead us.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Harmony. Hey, like, nice to hear from you, Cerebral Gaming, with regards to mainly the issues that we have always been, like, raising with regards to the concern that is biggest in terms of the crypto gaming. Couple of things. I'll just give a brief introduction exactly what we do and what exactly our main goals are when it comes to gaming. We are, like, esports content management company, and we firmly believe this, and we have been doing this from last 8 years. We have more than 900 plus creators across Southeast Asia, MENA, Turkey, and our strong foothold in India. We generate 4 to 5 billion impressions on all the gaming content every single month, and with the subscribers list of more than 440 million plus, which makes us currently the biggest in the world and the most unrecognized in the crypto space. Reason being because we don't function with the mentality that most of the crypto gaming developers have. When it comes to gaming distribution or any particular project to excel, your first and foremost thing is that never go head on head with the biggest Web 2 based gaming content companies or gaming development companies like Tencent or Activision or any other particular company in such way. So the problem is that why you cannot do it, because they have a very well established layered groundwork that they have already done. What we suggest to most of the people over there in this space is like just replicate the model, do not try and go head on head with them with something new. Now, like in crypto, we have seen mainly like people always want to look for developers or content creators who are mainly related to play to earn model, where they're always fighting for the same liquidity pool from the whole crypto space, while the web 2 based gaming, they have a different strategy. They look for the overall dynamic and fundamental reach towards the public. So how we can how we can actually change the narrative is very simple. um, you just replicate the model, maximize your user base. How you maximize the user base? It is way easier for crypto people, way easier for crypto people to actually make it in the gaming industry than actually traditional web 2 based gaming. And the reason I'm saying is because they have laid the foundation. They have given you the reason as a game to actually go out there in the market, right, and acquire from the user base and the platforms they have spent millions of dollars in acquiring, right? So now when we talk about the how it helps the economy is very obvious. A crypto degen who has $1,000 worth of tokens or $5,000 worth of tokens, he's going to dump on you any single time that he wants to. Why? Because there are 10,000 other particular projects that he wants to degen into, right? So this becomes one of the key reasons that none of the games have really had the success that they exactly expect from the market, right? Now, if you look at the retail Web 2 based gaming, even though people are spending stupid money, kids are spending stupid money into these particular games, why are they still able to succeed where they are literally stealing money from the people? Now, you have to understand that we have to look into this particular narrative. We have to understand the fact that um, when it comes to play to earn models, you have to see that you're actually people giving an opportunity to make money out of it. So unless that distribution model is not fixed in terms of creating an esports segment, focusing on the esports segment, focusing on the bigger economy, focusing on user base acquisition, I don't see any game in the crypto space actually succeeding in this space, where you have like every single company, the procedure that they follow is like you have spent, let's say, a $2 million or $3 million in developing a game, or let's say $10 million in developing a game, and you keep a basic marketing budget or user base acquisition budget of $100,000 on it. And what do you spend that $100,000 in? Not in actually even, which is like a shitty budget, but you don't use it for acquiring the user base. You use it for actually acquiring KOLs. People use it for using moon call or any other clown like that. It doesn't help, right? So there is no need of big KOLs in gaming space. There is no freaking need of bigger crypto degen KOLs to come and shill your game. They're not going to help. Their conversion rates are shit.
Yeah, I just want to point out, you mentioned before in another space I was in, that people buying these high flying, expensive actor influencers may not be that helpful, right? Because it could
They
only
are
get them
absolutely not.
5,000 users.
They are
That's it.
absolutely not. They're absolutely not. Let's say, would you rather go with a celebrity who is just going to do one tweet, one post, move on, takes like 70% of your marketing budget, or are you actually going to use that budget on acquiring at least, let's say, a million user base and be happy with them actually keep playing that game, right? So that is what you have to see from the mindset of a gaming developer or a company, that what your goal is to get that like 15 minutes of fame, or you are actually looking at the user base which are going to take you into the maybe 15 years of fame. So
Yeah, I just want to
unless,
come in. Cerebral gaming, what do you think about this esports aspect regarding what do you think? A lot of projects don't appreciate esports. They don't appreciate how the teams can power certain games by having a constant stream of content that people are going to be watching. Great loyal, very loyal fan base for each of those esports teams and streamers. Why isn't that people are paying attention to this with the projects that you're working with?
Uh, First of all, I'd like to say that I think he's spot on. I think you're absolutely right. If you pay somebody um, instead of instead of doing grassroots marketing, if you try and pay an influencer a certain amount of money using your budget to get people to buy your product, it's never going to go over well. That's just going to be money wasted. I think grassroots marketing is definitely the way to do this in this industry because you really build a community, and the community is what matters more than any phone call.
Oh, I think he got
I was getting rugged from a phone call. Sorry about that. Um,
no problem.
anyway, um, to answer your question, uh, I think a lot of people are overlooking this right now just because um, it's not being done very much yet. So it's a very undervalued market, but I think once it does get tapped into, people are going to realize the potential here. Um, the value of streamers, even mid-sized, small streamers, they have a ton of potential to be tapped and grow in this Web3 space. Once people realize that, we're going to see a huge influx.
That's pretty amazing. And I do want to ask now, both of you, where are we going when things become multi-chain? Because it's really hard to port assets from one chain to another chain. And even the way that in which you can have play games, right, requires a token of one kind. You may not be able to get the token of the same kind in another chain. But you know what? In truth, a great game could accept many types of tokens. So if you have to use one token to swap to get the native token of the game, that's kind of hard, right? If let's say your token bag is somewhere else and you have tokens on another project, I mean, is there an issue here in just on ramping lots of users? Maybe that will be the bottleneck. What do you guys think? I'll go for Mr. Gilcar first. Go for it.
sorry, I missed the last point. What did you say?
Is there an issue with the bottleneck of on ramping lots of users right now due to the issue of tokens and other things like that? Getting these people
No,
enough to,
that
okay.
should not be a that should your tokenomics should never be a problem in terms of acquiring like in terms of taking the game to the market, because eventually you have to look at it in one way that you are giving the power to the user base eventually, right? The more and more user base you acquire, the more and more user base you get on board, the more and more revenue you generate, right? Now how it's distributed, then when we talk about bringing certain stuff on chain, you have to understand that right now no particular game is out there which can scale 100% games on a blockchain. You cannot do that, it's not possible. You can only only bring the monetary ways of the economic setups on chain, like your NFTs and your tokens and your reward mechanism. Other than that, no, you cannot render a game frame by frame on a chain with such a weak technology at the moment. It might be the fastest, it might be the quickest way to monetize on it, but it cannot solve the other problems. There are thousands of other different layers which are underneath actually development and creating a specific software or a game or a protocol. So you have to see, especially in the gaming, when it comes to the rendering aspect of it, you have to only lay only certain aspects. Yeah, later on you can being cross chain into multiple other protocols should always be an option. And why not? Because it's a free world out there. So whatever suits your product the best, and I know 99.99% are garbage out there, right? So there are very few one which can actually enhance it. I see.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Let me ask Cerebral Gaming, what percentage of projects that come to you do you think are complete garbage?
99.99.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I, I would say a majority of the
Sorry,
projects.
I just have to jump in a call. I'll just
No
join
problem.
back in like 15 minutes. Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say the majority of projects that reach out to us, um, like we probably won't do business with, because a lot of these people that are building these games, these projects, refuse to, uh, I guess, dox themselves to our team, and that's one of the like requirements that we have for partnerships. And if if they refuse to dox themselves to our team, then it's an immediate no go for us. We have to be able to trust the people that we're working with, and we want to make sure that our community is not going to get rugged by the people that are building these things.
That's a fair point. Now, I think another issue, which has been coming up very recently, is how do a lot of people who are interested in gaming, are they going to be asset owners as well as users, or do you think there's a separation between users and asset owners? Does that make sense? Because in Axie there is.
Yeah, there absolutely is a difference between an asset owner and a user. A user is somebody that will immediately take the tokens that they're given and dump them on the market just to receive a profit. An asset owner is somebody that is speculating that the price of their asset is going to go up. And they're waiting for that peak time to sell. That or they just are holding for long term for whatever reason. But there absolutely is a distinction between the two.
And when projects come to you, do you think that they understand that difference? Maybe they just kind of confuse it and they're just trying to find the biggest goose to get to, right? They're just focusing on asset owners without realizing they also need users.
Absolutely. I think it's important to know the difference, and sometimes projects that are out there don't really see the difference or don't really understand. Um, I guess that they kind of have to market to both, right? They might only be marketing to one of those, but you really do have to reach out to both.
Right. Do you think that your Twitch streamers are able to reach out to the users, but how do you reach out to the asset owners in your opinion?
So that comes from the crypto side, right? Um, the crypto side is really the speculators that we're reaching out to. The users come from the gaming side, and our project is like a 50-50 mixture of both, right? So on our side, our entire team is crypto related, right? But half of the team is also gaming related. So we have the power to reach out to both sides of the aisle and say, hey, we're the same as you. We see the potential here on your side to come to this side and say, hey, there's value to be had here. And so we're doing our best to reach out to both sides of the aisle.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So, one question I've always wondered is when a project actually becomes successful, does that change the way that you interact with that project? I'm not referring to selling the tokens, I'm not referring to that. Do you kind of recognize that at some point the way in which you kind of talk to this team, the core team, set new expectations, get more investment to that project, because it's a lot harder to exponentially scale. Let's going from 1,000 users to 10,000 users versus going from 10,000 users to 100,000. Is that how you see it, or am I wrong?
Um, I actually consider myself to be more of a visionary. Um, I I like to look at projects based on what it is that they're building and the uh, I guess the heart that they're putting into their project. Because if you look, I I guess I can say this on here, but like we're partnering up with Fish Fight. We're partnering up with that team at Cerebral Gaming, and I reached out to them with like the full package. I was like, "Look, we want to make sure that your game is successful as hell because we love the heart that you're putting into your project." And I spoke to them just like I spoke to the team at Defira, the team at Mars Colony, because I see the value there. So it's not necessarily about the numbers to me. It's also about what's being built. And I think that they have something extremely unique there that needs to be presented to the world.
Yeah, I think just to point out, innovation in gaming and Web3 gaming comes in like phases, right? It's periods of refinement. What's really interesting about Fish Fight is they're using a randomizer to essentially allow you to basically increase your asset value. So when you fish, you can get fish which are increasing in asset value due to the nature of the tokenomics of the project, but it is random. It's at least attempting to be random, which is actually a very unique innovation. So the question to you is, are you looking at projects that really seek innovation and do it and implement it very uniquely? Or are you looking at projects that kind of make little refinements, but very important refinements?
I think it's a mixture of both. And when we talk about partnerships, it's not necessarily just about, what we're willing to accept, because our partners have to see the value that we can bring to the table as well and accept our partnership. I'd say that half of the people that we've reached out to, because we have a smaller community than them, have either declined or have not gotten back to us yet in our talks. So it's not just a one sided deal, right? Like, people have to be willing to see the potential that we bring to them. And I think a majority of the market doesn't really understand what we're building yet. They think that we're just another gaming guild, and that's perfectly fine. I'm ready to surprise the hell out of some people whenever our project does come onto the market. But um, yeah, like, people have to be willing to accept our partnership as well. So it's not just a one sided thing.
Yeah, I think that's really unique because there are a few things which are going on of cerebral gaming which I find important. So the first thing is it's very much like you're in the private equity world and you're offering a project or a company an accelerator option. We can use our knowledge, we can use the things that we have inside of ourselves to accelerate your project. But for some reason, on the other side, projects are kind of arrogant or ignorant. They don't think they need these accelerators or they don't think it's worth it. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to persuade someone that it is? And how did you persuade them?
I'm kind of the mindset that, like, we'll do our best to explain what it is that we're building and leave it on the table, for people to accept our invite, right? But I'm not trying to persuade anybody. I know that our project is going to be successful, so I'm not there to try and beg anybody to accept our invitation. That's up to them. Um, I I will do my best to explain always 100% of what it is that we're building. And if people don't understand and they have questions, I'm absolutely willing to explain it to them. But if I explain it to them and they still don't see the bigger picture of what it is that we're trying to build, then it's kind of time to move on, you know? In a business world, you really have to be able to determine when it's time to move on.
That's a really important point. Do you see a lot of other gaming guilds getting hung up with just trying to find and pick the right game? Sometimes they're still in discussions of games months into it. And I see a lot of gaming guilds out there that really have no direction. But the question is, once you have a team already, yeah, you're the leader of cerebral gaming, but how do you make sure that this direction that you have is continually pushed? Because a lot of gaming guilds just get kind of hung up with stuff, hung up with different discussions and hung up with different policies. I mean, it just seems really hard with a decentralized world, just ensuring that this vision that you have is continually pushed correctly in the right direction.
That's actually a really good point, because we haven't quite got to that point yet where I'm completely hands off in the partnership discussions. I've pretty much been available for every meeting that we've taken with other projects thus far, but we are kind of moving away from that because we are getting bigger, and I just don't have time to be able to meet with every single team that wants to talk to us anymore. It along with, other things that I have to attend to on a weekly basis, it's just becoming very difficult. And so we've kind of had to split our team into two separate teams, whereas uh, my business partner, Nick Business Time, as you might know him, he and I are working on the gaming side along with Cheesy, another one of our governors. We're all working more on the gaming side, trying to scout for new potential streamers, um, and partnerships on the gaming side. And the rest of our team is starting to focus more on the gamefi side, reaching out to those partnerships. But I've made it very clear what it is that I'm looking for when it comes to those partnerships, because I have a very, very good idea of what it is that makes a good partnership. And I've laid that out for them, but it's still to be decided on how well that's kept, right? Because we haven't quite gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Every private equity firm, when they make a lot of really successful investments, you got your, Bridgewater Associates, you got your Renaissance Capitals. I guess the best example would probably be um, Blackstone, right? Once the founders have done enough and have clear policies, it's up to the associates to do it. Are you hiring associates basically to bring this? How do you hire in this case? It's kind of weird, a Web3 type of associate hired in a way with which they get tokens as well as an incentive. It's kind of a strange way of doing this, but how does it make sense to you, and how are you going to pursue that?
I mean, the first thing that I'm looking for is excitement. Like, I want people that are extremely excited to work in this industry. Because if you're not excited about what it is that you're doing, I don't think that you're going to do as good of a job. Um, like, I want people to be as fired up as I am about what it is that I'm building here. It really is that simple. Like, that's the first thing that I look for. The second thing that I look for is obviously capability in that role that we're trying to fill. And the people that I have on my team right now are very capable people. A lot of them have worked in the business sector previously. Like Nick was a marketing director before he got into crypto. So I'm letting him kind of fill that niche role. Kuba was I mean, he still is in uh, like a development, like a business development role. He still does that. Like, that's his full time job. So having somebody available to do like the partnership side of our GameFi industry is really awesome. Tim, you all know Strong Minds Hold. He's like one of the biggest validators on Harmony. So he's kind of taking on more of a community role, kind of being one of the faces of our project, and letting people know, like, hey, you guys can trust us because like there's already a lot of trust enabled in Tim. He's a huge community member, but he's also taking on one of the GameFi roles. So just things like that. Like, I don't know if people realize like how strong our team is, but they will soon. I think people are going to see very soon, once our website is built out and all of the bios that we build for our team members, people are going to see those things.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was trying to create a question, which I don't know how easy it is for you to answer, but I guess the question is, the problem what we see today is that a lot of people in the world, it's an excess market of labor, right? We never had the situation in history where millions of young men are suddenly going to be on the employment line and the countries simply don't have jobs for them, right? And at the same time, there's excess capital in certain countries like in America. I guess, do you feel like gaming in Web3 is a way to merge those two things together? You have a lot of people who can play games who otherwise would be underemployed. And then you have a lot of people who can't get the same returns they can in the stock market, would be going to get those returns in crypto. But at the same time, what they're doing is they're bridging those two worlds together without an intermediary. So how do you see the role of gaming guilds doing, kind of bridging that?
I think that's a fundamental question that is yet to be determined, right? Like, we've never really seen this amount of people since it, I guess, like, the last time we saw something like this was the Great Depression, maybe. Um, but times have changed, technology has changed, and so we will have to see, just how much of a player uh, something like this can be for the industry, right? I mean, the gaming industry just continues to grow year over year. Like, multi-billion-dollar companies are emerging all of the time in the gaming sector. Um, so there's clearly a lot of potential there, and a lot of it has been untapped thus far, but it's incredibly difficult to break into. Anybody that's ever tried to become a streamer, you'll recognize just how difficult it is to get going, because you either have to be a extremely talented at a game, or b extremely good at holding an audience. So whether that means that you're hilarious, or you just are really good at talking to people, um, that's what makes up a good streamer. And a majority of the time, you kind of have to have a mixture of both. You have to be very personable, and you have to be really good at a game. And that's what we've seen be successful on Twitch thus far. But I do think that there's still a lot of potential out there for streamers to come up in the industry. Um, it's going to be interesting to see what sponsors are looking for in the future, though. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, you have to look at what sponsors are doing, like, not necessarily what viewers are doing, who they're watching, but what sponsors are realizing, or what they're willing to put their money towards.
Well, that's cool. I think Tony Tan is here. He's from Nigeria and from Sweden. He's also someone who likes Harmony, and he also really likes cerebral gaming. And I think the reasons why he likes that is because he knows where a good project is. So, Tony, go ahead. What is your question?
Hey, George. Hi. Hello, everyone. My question is leaned more towards the one wallets, and I just want to ask, what do you think about it, or what are the nice features that it would be nice to anticipate for?
That's a good question, cerebral gaming. What do you feel about the addition of one wallet? Do you think it's really going to help things, or do you think that maybe it's not really going to be all that helpful in the future?
Um, so we've actually had some discussions with the One Wallet team, and uh, we are looking forward to, I guess, helping them grow their community, because they're seeking out the same uh, like Gen Zers that we are. A majority of gamers today are Gen Zers, and um, I think they're also reaching out and marketing towards that demographic with their wallet, because a lot of people in that demographic use their cell phones more than they use computers these days. And so having a smartphone wallet is a brilliant idea for that demographic. Um, and the ease of use of it, I've actually been able to use it quite a bit. The chat features, the NFT features that they're implementing and rolling out, I think it has a lot of potential to be very successful. But a key feature, or a key thing to keep in mind, is that you could have an amazing product, but half of growing something like that product is the marketing itself. And we're just going to have to see how they market it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No, that's a really good point. Unless Tony wants to come up with another question, I do want to ask some more things about, you know, Twitch streamers getting tokens. Why hasn't this happened before? Is it because Twitch streamers were scared of tokens, or do you think that Twitch streamers were still in the whole Web 2 kind of mindset?
I think it's a combination of a few things. One is the fact that um, Amazon, who owns Twitch, doesn't want to do that. They don't want to pay people in a cryptocurrency. They don't accept crypto on their own platform, and they don't want to get involved with it. I think a lot of it has to do with legal and tax implications. Um, and a lot of these big corporations are trying to stay away from that because of that fact. In fact, like one of our partners, Versus Gaming, is an official partner of EA. They're still going through the motions of having their legal advisors look at cryptocurrencies. A lot of these very large corporations just don't want to touch it yet because of the ramifications that could come about from using cryptocurrencies. Another thing is a lot of the streamers that have, you know, marketed for cryptocurrencies have been pump and dump schemes. And so the ones that haven't done that are very scared to get involved with any of these projects because they don't want to be labeled as scammers like some of these others have. And I think that kind of wraps up your question as to why it hasn't happened yet.
No, that's a very comprehensive answer. So I think we'll wrap up the space too, because you gave so many comprehensive and really great answers. I've learned a lot today. Tony, do you have a last question for our wonderful speaker?
Yeah. Thank you, Cerebral Gaming. My question would be like in the next sort of like 5 to 7 years, what do you think is more likely to happen? Do we see more gaming companies getting involved in crypto, or are we going to be seeing more of new games being developed with crypto adoption in focus?
I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a majority of these GameFi projects go to zero, just like we saw a majority of the ICOs back in 2017 go to zero, um, or really close to zero. Maybe not zero exactly, but um, it's one of those crazes, right? Where there's a lot of hype in it initially, and then it fizzles out. That's what we're going to see with GameFi. But the
Yep.
projects that are solid are going to stick around for a long time and be extremely successful. Um, with with games though that are already established in the Web 2 space, I think they're absolutely going to get into Web3. And we're already starting to see that with like Microsoft buying out, what was it, Activision Blizzard. I think that they're going to get involved in the NFT space because they see the potential there. They see how much money they can make from that industry. And I don't think that they're going to be able to walk away from that kind of money because at the end of the day, they're a business and they're all about profits. Um, so I think that we will see that.
That's awesome. Well, I'll wrap it up there. I've learned a lot. I think everyone in the audience has learned a lot. Shoot Cerebral Gaming a like and a follow, and shoot the Harmony Developer DAO a follow because we help developers build. And that's a really wonderful thing. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. Thank you again, Cerebral Gaming, for willing to collab with the Developer DAO, and I'll see you around.
Thank you, George.